when we first started building, we were like, oh, we'll go sustainable, whatever that means at that time. I think for me, sustainability is actually about how do we build a product that's going to last a long time? How do we build a product that is super healthy?
What do you mean by healthy?
Well, a lot of our homes are quite sick. As we changed the code, we introduced insulation, and that created, and we made our houses slightly more airtight, and that created a ventilation problem in our houses. Moisture is always sort of trying to get into the house. It gets trapped in the house and creates all this mold. Most of the time you can't actually see it. So healthy to us is making sure that the house breathes and it's getting that stale air out all the time. And I guess the thermal performance of a house, how can we make this house more energy efficient so we're not chewing up heaps of electricity, which we all know it's pretty expensive now. That's what sustainability means to me.
Welcome to Behind the Design, a podcast where we unfold the details behind the designs we know and love and explore how each project comes to life. I am Camilla Ingle, owner of Unfolded, an interior design and styling studio. In this podcast series, we dive into the details with our industry experts, covering topics such as the creative process, latest design trends, and how we, as an industry, work together to meet the brief and overcome challenges. Let the conversation begin. Andrew, welcome. Welcome to Behind the Design.
Thanks for having me.
So Lou Projects, building better. Tell me more about that.
I sort of became a little bit obsessed with trying to do things a little bit different and improve the building industry. And I thought, if I go really hard on the whole industry, I'll make a massive difference. But it actually wasn't the case. And I just had to really focus on my little unit, get the culture right, get the people right, and build a better standard, I guess.
So when you say go really hard, what does that mean?
All in, I guess, like just trying to do so many different things, like try and reduce landfill, try and recycle as much materials as possible, try and change the complete way we're building, try and improve everyone in the industry as a whole. And that's a big goal. And reality is when you actually get into it, that's not achievable.
I guess as well, starting out, did you start out with your partner or did you start out solo?
Started out solo.
Okay. And then you've built the team. Over time.
My partner Annika is part of the team now. She's been with us for about a year and a half now. And she's made such an impact on the business because it was me and my men in the team. And although I did have another person helping previously, Tegan, she was amazing too, but Annika is just so invested, and she's really doing all the work that I hate doing, first of all, but also having that female touch and that perspective.
It's important. And balance. Balances things out with a team of men. And I think I've always loved that, but I think to know that she can look at what I'm trying to present to clients and she can tell me whether it makes sense to her. Yes.
And if she doesn't understand it, then they're probably not going to understand it too.
Brilliant. And so to unpack that, just when you say your sort of approach or your perspective that may not be received that well, is it because you've got this creative energy that you're just trying to get out these ideas and these concepts? When creatives sometimes can communicate differently. I think I'm somewhere in the middle. I find I'm creative and very process driven. I can get super creative and I can write a whole process around what I've created. And to me, I'm like, I understand that. That all makes sense to me. Yes.
But then that's just words on a piece of paper.
Especially when you're in the industry, right?
Yeah.
Because we know our lingo.
Yeah.
We know the talk.
Even like writing processes for our staff and our subbies. Again, it's words on a piece of paper. Like, people need to resonate or understand what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Especially if you're talking to a 17-year-old apprentice.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm saying.
Straight out of TAFE.
Yeah, exactly.
On the tool.
They're still trying to figure out how to be a man.
Yeah.
You know?
Totally.
And here I am just like stepping way far ahead.
Yeah. Sending them a PDF of
this
processes.
is what the expectations are of your, your conduct at being an apprentice.
And how do you manage that side of things as well? I think that's a perfect example of diving into what goes on behind the design. You know, we're making and creating these beautiful projects, but what is it like on a Tuesday morning having that conversation with an apprentice?
It's tough. Fortunately, my team at the moment, I've shrunk the team back down, and we've
Is that with demand?
Yeah. Just wanting to get the team right again, getting the OGs back, and shrinking that team back down. And I've been fortunate enough right now that the team are fully made of really good men. You know, they're honest, they're good communicators, they're good leaders, good mentors.
Got the skills.
Yeah, they got the skills, obviously, but like the skills with that, but obviously the skills with carpentry. And they're sort of really, I see that they're dedicated to learning their art. And it's not even just the art of carpentry, the art of communicating really well. Like, I did part of my apprenticeship through two Kiwi guys, and they were such legends. They were so good to me. And then I went into like commercial, and then I saw a totally different side of construction.
Interesting.
Was
that in your first sort of early years?
Yeah.
Early 20s kind of, yeah.
Yeah, mid-20s sort of thing. I saw a completely different side to construction, where it was like this tall poppy syndrome.
Okay.
Everyone's sort of like competing against each other and putting each other down. And yeah, I mean, it taught me a lot, and it's probably part of where I'm at today. But I don't know if that's entirely healthy.
In what way?
This aggressive competition in construction, and sort of putting people down all the time is probably not healthy. And that culture runs through pretty quickly. Yeah. Where everyone starts.
Yeah. Like, it can filter through.
Yeah, and it gives, like, it riddles people with anxiety of like, am I doing the right thing? You know, and
how do you show up well when you're worried about doing the right thing? Yeah,
it's like if you cut a piece of timber, you're going to get yelled at, you're going to get told off, or
sounds mildly toxic.
Yeah, so like you end up just being, am I
edgy?
Yeah, and what am I going to do about this? You know, how do I actually make the things that I want to make?
Yeah,
with confidence.
Yeah. And do you think, like, looking back at that version of Andrew, everything you learned, you developed over that time, did that give you, was there a bit of a gap there for you to think, I don't know if I've got what it takes to open my own thing? Or did you leverage off that and think, okay, you know what, I'm going to change things up a little bit. I want things to be different. I want to be a leader. I don't want my team to experience maybe what I've experienced.
Yeah. I think the second thing, definitely. I didn't look at it as though, am I going to be good enough? I definitely ramped it up. But I sort of knew that I wanted to run a business very early in my life. And I started like a business degree, never finished it. And then like I was 18. Yeah.
Okay.
And then did a bunch of other apprenticeships. No, I hated it. I hated it. I'm not
oh gosh.
Yeah, I'm not a book smart person.
Yeah.
Enika, my missus, is she's great with books. Like, perfect. She's an absolute nerd. But
maybe I'll get her over on my.
Yeah. I struggle like learning.
Yeah.
Like, I have to work really hard to learn.
But it's a different side of your brain. It's left and right brain, right? Like, what we do, it's creative, it's hands-on, it's quite detail driven. To then study something like business and be interested and curious, it's like it's a whole nother gamut of things. Yeah.
So I gave up on that, but I always sort of knew that I wanted to start my own business. I just didn't know I didn't have any skills to start any business.
What is it going to look like?
Yeah, what is that business? So then did a bunch of apprenticeships, failed them, found carpentry with those two Kiwi guys.
Yeah.
And just led me to where I'm at now, I guess.
You know what I love hearing about this the most is how it's not all, rose-colored glasses. It's not like I was having a conversation with my podcast producer this morning around it. People can sort of think you do really well at school and go into uni, you tick that box, you do a nice couple of years in the industry, then you open your own business and it's all really peachy. And then you have these conversations and you're like, no, none of that happened.
No, it was a battle.
It was a battle.
It was a serious battle.
Yeah, but like,
It continues to be.
It continues to be. And then there's all those questions that come with that. Do we love what we do enough that we're like, oh,
are we willing to take it?
Today's going to be hard, or this week's going to be really hard. I know that someone who works maybe in admin at 9 to 5 and gets everything ticked off between those hours could be really easy. And I'll get my sick leave and my annual leave paid.
Yeah.
But do I want that? Will I get those same challenges?
Yeah.
It's so interesting, isn't it?
You don't really think about all those things when you start your own business.
No. We haven't experienced any of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think for me, I don't know what your experience was. Starting my own business was selfish. It was like a selfish perspective. It was like, I want to do this for me. As you progress through your business, you realize you actually have to do it for others. It's about the service to others. Because if you're sort of like devoting so much of your time to wanting to get the glory out of the business, you'll constantly be disappointed. Where if you look at it from like a perspective of how much value can I add to other people, and that includes the staff, the subbies, the clients, the architects, how can I add so much value to them?
Yeah.
That's when things start shifting around a bit and you actually understand why you got into business.
Totally. It was interesting recently. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts, very relevant right now. A lot of podcasts on, interior design business, but I've really entered that phase of running the business, right? And it was really interesting. One of the quotes that was brought up was to just sit in a quiet moment and discover for yourself, what does it look like to you to be working in the business or on the business? And I had to sit there and go, I'm not working on it. I've been working in it.
For sure.
I'm coming up to 5 years in November, and I've been working in it the whole time. Like, when is that transition going to happen where I work on it?
Yeah.
Fortunately, it's successful.
Yeah.
Not a bad thing.
Yeah.
But it's really owning what is my role in this business. And for someone like yourself, you've created this team, you've started so much. Are you now working on it, or do you still feel like you're very heavily in it?
It's a good question.
It made me think.
Yeah.
I had to really go, okay, not only what am I doing now, but where do I want to be? If I want to be over here, I need to work on it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll just keep working in it, and years will just fly by.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting...
Years do fly by.
Years do fly by. And it's also like a confidence in going, okay, I'm a business owner. I'm not just an interior designer.
Yeah.
And for you, I'm not just a builder.
Yeah.
So what does it look like to go, okay, if I'm working on it, what hats am I now going to transition to wearing? Yeah.
That is the thing, like we wear many, many hats within a space of an hour. You're HR and then you're doing finance and then you're doing construction. Yeah. You're doing management. So there's just so many hats to wear.
Yeah.
But you do, like you said, you do need to create the space for you to look at your business and go, where do I want to be and what do I want to do? And how do I get there? And it's not easy to figure out what that is. I think I'm half at the moment.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sort of half working in the business and then half working on the business. I do have a big picture perspective, and you do need to find the right balance there, because if you're just thinking all big picture, you get lost in what's actually happening
Yeah,
in your
the
business.
day-to-days
Yeah.
as well. And being present as well.
Yeah.
You become so goal-driven
For sure.
that sometimes you're like, hang on, it's my Wednesday and I've got a 10 a.m.
Yeah. Yeah.
I need to jump on that Zoom or be on site in half an hour. Like, goals are one thing,
Yeah.
but you've got to be very present and everyone's relying on you as well.
You got to sort of understand what it's that ego thing of
Ego.
what can I let go of,
Love ego.
It's, you think you have to be involved in everything. And then took me quite a few years, but once I started giving the guys autonomy, I just saw them grow so quickly.
Wow.
You still need to guide them.
Of course.
And you still need to support them.
Yeah.
But you need to give them the opportunity to grow. And once they grow, they're just like, they own it. They love what they do, and they
find
feel
confidence.
like they find confidence, and they feel that what they're doing is theirs, and they can be super proud of it.
Totally.
So letting go of your jobs,
the reins
is a thing that you have to sort of figure out.
Totally.
In business.
And it's interesting. I've found that I've had to dive into the whole independent woman and go, what does it look like to delegate? And exactly what you're saying, it's trusting that when you let go of the reins, that person will pick up the slack. And how do you know until you do it? That's the trickiest bit, right? You just hope. Fingers crossed. Yeah.
And you also need to be good at reading people.
Intuitive.
Yeah. You got to trust your gut too, which is something I wish I did more. Because I think when the right person is the right fit, and you certainly know when they're not the right fit, but you think, you
give it a go.
Give it a go. It's convenient. I feel
busy
guilty
at the moment.
Yeah, busy at the moment. I feel guilty if I don't give them a go.
Yeah.
When you just know, like, instinctively that they're not the right fit.
Yeah.
And then it becomes very difficult for everyone.
Quite challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of digging deep and going, I want to give this person a chance.
Yeah.
But also you can walk away from that in that environment and go, I gave them a chance. Maybe my gut said no, but I gave them a chance, and I'm glad I did because I exhausted all options.
Yeah.
You won't regret it. Or look back and go, what if I give him that one more week, So it's really tricky.
Yeah, otherwise you're sort of questioning whether whatever direction you go, whether you made the right decision if you haven't been presented with all options.
Exactly.
And to make an educated decision.
Totally. So tell me about little Andrew George. We went to school together, by the way, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. You remembered me, though. I was just staying quiet.
I was the extrovert, you were the introvert.
Yeah, I was just such a little nerd. Little Andrew George. So much to be said about that. But my mum was very loving, but showed it in a very odd way. While my dad was sort of like very quiet, and I didn't really get a lot from him. So I was being smothered, and also was struggled for attention from my dad.
Distant, yeah.
So it was an interesting sort of childhood, but I became quite dependent really, really early, and I wanted to detach particularly from my mum, from an early age, and I guess that taught me how to be super resilient and to work really hard. Actually, my dad taught me a lot about work ethic.
Okay.
And that's probably why I work so hard. But some of that can be my flaws. I work too hard sometimes.
Interesting. So it's like you overdo it to sort of fill.
Yeah, it's like you've got things you need to work on in your head, but you rather than doing that, you just work physically to avoid the things that you should be working on.
Interesting. And so how was that at school then, like in those later years of high school? Were you sort of really into the HSC, or were you said the whole academic thing was quite challenging?
Yeah, I was there for the social.
Ah.
because I only started to shine from like year 11.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if I shine, but I started coming out of my shell a little bit in year 11, year 12.
Yeah. Blossom.
And then by the time I got to there, I was sort of not really keen on school. I was sort of just hanging out with my friends.
Yeah.
And just enjoying the time that I had with them before I knew life was going to get pretty serious.
Get busy, yeah.
Mm.
It's so wild, isn't it? Like I look back and think I didn't do well at the HSC. I don't know what I was busy doing. Dancing? Other things?
At clubs?
No. I taught dance troupe. Do you
Did you?
remember that?
Oh, no. No, I didn't know that.
I taught dance troupe. Yeah, I just look back at those years and it's similar if we circle back to what we were saying earlier around how those, even up to like 28, I would say, so many of the things that I did maybe wasn't a reflection of who I am today, but they all happened for a reason, right? Like, did I need the highest HSC mark to open my business at 30?
Yeah.
No.
Probably not.
Because I learned on the job. I learned so many things about what I wanted to do and who I wanted to be. And I played The Sims religiously, which...
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I still love The Sims.
I used to love Sims too.
I mean...
It's such a weird concept, but yeah.
Apparently it's still the most played game.
Really?
Yep.
Wow, there's some pretty solid games out there these days.
I know. I'm like, what about Grand Theft Auto?
Yeah. I thought that would have been top tier.
So it's just interesting because I think there's so many expectations that we have on ourselves that, so like societal conditioning and all that type of thing at those younger years, but you only get to know yourself late 20s, early 30s.
Yep.
And then I don't know about you, but I've only really learnt to love myself and who I am and how I show up and be so deliberate and conscious in that probably in the last 3 years.
Yep.
Like really, really short.
For sure.
Yeah. Which tapers into how you run your business. And it also tapers into, relationships, being a leader.
Yep.
Personal relationships, professional. Yeah. It's so interesting.
Yeah, because I guess if someone asked me what I would say to my younger self, I would tell them to work on their head.
Okay.
Because...
Can you elaborate just before you...
Yeah, I mean, I think most of us all have things that we need to work on. And like I was saying before, we're just, well, for me personally, I was too busy just working rather than dealing with the things that need to be dealt with,
Yes. Okay.
And that can be whatever it is, therapy, ice baths, sauna, meditation, journaling, whatever it is.
Mental health side of things, yeah.
Because if you don't sort that out, it'll leak into your business. And I knew that was happening when I first started my business.
It's inevitable that it'll come up.
Yeah.
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 And the people that you have in your business will see that. And it's just a bit more, it's just harder to recover from that.
Yeah.
So if I said to my younger self, sort that out first.
Sort that out first. And it's having, the tools to do that. Like I think our generation has been quite fortunate because we're all diving deep in vulnerability.
Yep.
Did our parents' generation do that? No.
Definitely not. No.
So that's
Definitely
why it's...
not my parents.
Well, yeah. And like a lot of people's parents, right?
Yep.
We're all looking at them going, hey, let's have this conversation. And they're sort of like, why are we having this conversation? You're thinking, oh, generational gap.
Yeah.
Massive generational gap.
Yeah. But it's not their fault.
It's not their fault.
No.
As per, it wasn't their mum's fault either, you know, because they also weren't being vulnerable with each other. So I think our relationships and the way that we lead now is definitely a sort of driven from that. And also not everyone is like you and I, where we can talk vulnerably and we can dive deep on certain things and you know, really unpack it all to be better, to show up better.
For sure.
Personally and professionally.
Yeah. Show up better.
Show up better.
That's you need time to reflect on that,
Totally.
You need the time to self-reflect.
Yeah. But that's what you were saying earlier, like pushing the ego aside sometimes too and being like, oof, I just said that or I just did that.
Yeah.
Was that the right approach?
Yeah.
Can I sit there in a quiet moment, take responsibility for the fact that maybe that wasn't the right approach? Maybe I need to have a conversation with somebody about that.
Yeah, maybe a conversation to yourself.
To myself, exactly, which is the self-reflection piece. Yeah.
I think that's the funny thing about self-reflection is two difficult reasons. One's being, if you self-reflect, that may mean that you'll be confronted with whatever issues you have.
Uncomfortable.
Which are super uncomfortable, and a lot of people don't want to deal with that. I know I didn't want to deal with it.
Yeah, not until you're ready.
Yeah, exactly.
And then when you're ready, you're like,
Yeah. Whoa,
really?
What's going on? How do I deal with
right
this?
now?
Yeah.
Bad timing.
I'm in the middle of something. So that's always difficult.
Yes.
And I guess the second one is time, because we're always so busy.
Where do you fit it in?
Where do you fit self-reflection in? But there's also that fine line. A lot of people just sit in their brains too much and
totally
reflect too much,
too deep,
and you just get riddled with thoughts, and you don't actually do anything.
Yeah,
I'm sort of figuring out that fine line of working really hard still, getting things done, but also taking the time to self-reflect.
And 100%. And you do that through, you were mentioning your morning swims and things like that. What does that create for you? Is that like an ice bath? Is that like going to the gym? Or, what do you get from those mental health check-ins? And
getting good at anything is all about discipline and repetition. So you could be like, all right, well, I'm going to go to the gym. I feel really good.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. You've done that once or twice or three times. But you got to repeat it as many times as possible and have the discipline to actually go to the gym.
Yeah.
And it's the same with ice baths if you want to do that. I like ice baths because it's, you don't want to do it, but it's good for you, so you do it anyways.
Yes. And it's sort of that uncomfortable thing too, right?
Yeah.
You're like, I don't love it.
Yeah. But that's life, A lot of things we do we don't absolutely love, but we got to do it.
Yeah.
Rather than just avoid it.
Yeah.
So going back to that discipline and repetition, you could do the same with journaling. I don't do that enough. I definitely don't. So I'm not telling people that I'm disciplined enough to journal, but I think that is when I do it, I enjoy it, and I realise I've got a lot of things that need to come out.
Yes.
And they're not all negative things.
It doesn't have to be a negative experience. Yeah. I find that with meditation. So I'll notice that if I'm nervous about, pitching to a client, or could be something in my personal life, or could just be that I'm not sleeping at night because I've got stuff coming up.
Yeah.
I did a really beautiful meditation. I feel like you'll really appreciate this. And I typed in, have you heard of Insight Timer?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I typed in, I don't know.
Oh, can you do that?
I typed in, I don't know, to the meditation search bar because I didn't know what I was feeling. And it was so beautiful. And I needed to hear it at that time. It was about a couple of months ago, because what came back was all these meditations, because obviously it gives you all the options of relevant meditations. And one of them was, it's okay to not know. And it was so validating. Yeah. And it was good for me, as like you say, with the self-reflection, but it's also self-talk, right? Yeah. Instead of worrying, so you can there's two opportunities or two paths. I don't know. Oh no, that's really scary. I should know. I should know everything. Yeah. Or I don't know. It's just temporary. It's just now. Yeah. In the morning, I might know the answer. So without diving too deep into meditation, I just think really acknowledging where you're at, how you're feeling, and just allowing that to be exactly what it is at any given time.
For sure.
As soon as you acknowledge yourself for it, you can move out of it faster without it being a deadline.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's like, this is inconvenient.
Yeah.
How do I move out of this? Yeah. Let's meditate through it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And you're probably like me, where I'm constantly trying to optimize. It's like, how can I've got a nice 30-minute gap. How can I squeeze this in? Efficiency. Yes. How many things can I squeeze in the day?
Literally, yes.
But then you're like, hold on, I got to take it easy a little bit. So that's what I struggle with.
Have you ever experienced burnout?
Many times. It flows in. I flow in and out of burnout. And then I guess the recent burnout was very close to finishing an Ironman.
Yeah.
I realised after the Ironman, which is hilarious because
That's huge, by the way.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The funny thing was, I was like, when I finished it, I was just sort of disappointed with myself.
Oh,
if I'm being completely honest. But I knew.
In what sense?
I just wanted to get a little bit quicker.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. But that's me.
though-
That's competitive me.
Yeah.
The funniest thing that I experienced from the Ironman was actually like it's an apparent thing I didn't realise until after I got out of it. But I had like a post-triathlon depression thing that lasted for a couple of weeks.
And that's a thing?
Yeah, because you run on adrenaline for all the training and obviously on the day, and then you stop, and then it just goes, your body just goes, whoa, what's going on here? So then I hit a real low point for a couple of weeks, and at the time I was like, oh, this sucks. But I look back at it now, which wasn't even that long ago. That was
quite heavy.
That was really good for me because I needed that for me to step back and assess that self-reflection thing again.
And what came up? Like what did you learn from it? If you could say now, today.
Well, yeah, I guess it's just I needed to slow back down. Again, I needed to figure out what I really wanted out of the business and out of life. And what do I need to do now as a priority? Because I think, for me personally, I load myself up with all these tasks that don't necessarily have a priority number attached to it. So you think you have to do all the tasks all at the same time, but you don't actually need to do all of them at the same time.
Yeah.
You need to figure out what's priority.
Yeah, what's important.
Do that, give yourself some time to breathe, and then do the next thing. But the struggle with building for me, and you probably experience it with you, it's like all projects may demand your time at the same time. And that could just be a little bit too much. And sometimes you just gotta head down, bum up, and just get it done.
Overwhelming, especially when you're the go-to.
Yeah.
Like your team can cover 60% of it.
Yeah.
But that 40% still can keep you up at night.
Yeah, 40% still
huge,
and you're right. It can definitely keep you up at night.
And, talking about portfolio, back to sort of like Lou Projects Unfolded, I just adore what you guys do. And I think from a branding perspective, I feel like you and I are quite aligned with, natural, earthy products. Obviously, we're going to dive into sustainability as well, eco materials. But I think aesthetically, it's a really beautiful, your designs are beautiful.
Thank you.
And do you I find it quite interesting, there's so many, how do I say, so many players, so many roles in what we do, right? There's the builder, the interior designer, the architect, the client, the joiner. Then there's all the furniture and everything else that comes into play after the fact. How do you find meeting with different roles like myself, interior designers, architects, and having that conversation around, are we aligned on this brief? Have you ever found that that's a bit of a challenge? I know you're becoming a lot more turnkey.
Yeah.
But maybe originally or initially, I should say, did you ever find, that the brief, it's just not my jam. I don't design like this. I don't build like this.
Yeah. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I've had quite a few projects thrown at us, and we just don't.
Doesn't fit.
We don't really have the interest to do those types of projects. I guess in a way we've curated the projects and architects that we want to work with, and that's not just a snobby thing. It's more of
it's an alignment.
It's an alignment. It's what do the values align? Does the overall aesthetic align? And I guess if you're sort of chopping and changing and just doing every single project, you don't get to niche in what you do.
Totally.
And it's not even just the aesthetics; it's the with what we do, it's more building science
Yeah.
sort of stuff. So that kind of needs to align with the designer and the client and and everyone else involved.
Totally.
And that's just such a big thing in the industry where I don't think it gets talked about enough, of this collaborative experience between the builder, the architect, the engineer, interior designer, and the client. Like, we should all ultimately be working for the client. The client is ultimately the king.
100%. Yeah.
And we need to understand, how can we build the best product for the budget that they have?
Yeah. That's aligned
How can
to
they
the
get
brief.
How can they get the best value? And that doesn't happen from just a quick conversation, a quick brief, a drawing on a piece of paper, and then all of a sudden everything's all good.
Good to go.
Good to go.
No, it doesn't work like that. Not when it's going to be a beautiful outcome as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's about getting us on board as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So we can understand the design brief and how can we assist you in getting that design brief to that budget.
Yeah.
Because there's just so many projects that I've seen that come to us and the clients have already invested all this money, 6 months, 9 months of design, engineering.
These scenarios.
And it goes out to tender and the budget's $1.5 million, and then comes back and it's $2.5 million, way off the mark. And it's a pretty hard pill for the client to swallow.
Totally.
To be like, oh, okay, well, I've fallen in love with this design, but I don't have $1 million more to spend.
Nope.
What do we do? And some of it just gets canned. They just go, no, I'm not doing it. It's not worth it,
I've seen this before. They just close the book.
Yeah.
It's done.
It's either go big or don't do it at all. Or just constant disappointment. And then the budget increases a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's still a struggle.
Yeah.
So I think that getting us on board as early as possible and having that collaborative experience is super important in the design phase.
And what I love about what you guys do is that you're such a personable person. You know, often people can have the skills, but like we were saying earlier, can they communicate? You know, things like that. Or they can be really creative, but they never want to jump on the phone with a client. You know, it's like, oh, you've got to be able to be strong in all of those like areas, all the facets of the business. And I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, I can see that within your business and within you, that you have that capability to not only wear the hat of the owner, but also be able to drive that brief, to talk about why it costs this much. And the other thing I wanted to check in with you, you know, how does it work in terms of budgets? If a client has a really small budget and they want to do everything really, really sustainably, eco-friendly products and things like that, do you sort of have a disclaimer of, well, if you go down that path, things are going to be more expensive? Or, you know, is that sort of like, does that ever affect the budget when you really drive the sustainability piece? Because everyone's wanting to do it, right?
Yeah. Well, sustainability is a funny one. We sort of, when we first started building, we were like, oh, we'll go sustainable, whatever that means at that time.
That's it. What does it mean?
But I think for me, sustainability is actually about how do we build a product that's going to last a long time. Through
Longevity. Durability.
How do we build a product that is super healthy?
What do you mean by healthy?
Well, a lot of our homes are quite sick. As we changed the code, we introduced insulation, and that created, and we made our houses slightly more airtight, and that created a ventilation problem inside of in our houses. And moisture's always sort of trying to get into the house, and it gets trapped in the house and creates all this mold. most of the time you can't actually see it. It's behind the walls and
Yes, yeah. And then it will start to seep through. But
it'll
it won't be straight
start to
away.
seep through, yeah. So healthy to us is making sure that the house breathes and it's getting that stale air out all the time. So that's that, and I guess the thermal performance of a house.
Mm-hmm.
How can we make this house more energy efficient so we're not, chewing up heaps of electricity, which we all know it's pretty expensive now.
Yeah, expensive, and just environmentally, you know, it's not good.
Yeah. So I guess that's what sustainability means to me.
And do you educate the clients within the briefing phase on all of this, or do you find that your clients come to you and sort of just know, oh, well, Andrew knows his stuff and
they
know a bit of background?
Mostly that.
Yeah, that's good.
Which is good.
Yeah.
But we still need to obviously educate them, because I think people come to us and they want to do better, but they don't actually know what it means. They just think, oh, it's not their fault.
No. But they're not in our industry. Like you and I can bounce this for hours. Yeah. But the average client's a bit, still learning.
Yeah. So they know that they want to do better, but they actually have no idea.
Yeah. Tell me how.
What that actually looks like. So we sort of educate them in that way.
And it's beautiful because it's, for me as an interior designer, particularly like at Unfolded day to day, not only are we creating beautiful spaces for clients who have a specific brief, but if I can then say, I'm going to work with Andrew on this because this particular client really values that, I'm learning as much as they are by working with you. And then potentially you're learning how to make that space even more beautiful by working with me.
For sure.
And we're ticking off so many boxes for that client.
Yeah, that experience.
Yeah.
Like not every builder, and I'm not saying I have a heap of experience, but not every builder is the same.
Yeah.
And they'll experience different things in different projects. And having all these architects and interior designers involved in a project teaches you so much as a builder.
So much, yeah.
And
forever learning.
Yeah. But if you're a builder that just does sort of basic houses and you only have the client, you're sort of not really learning as much from different professions.
Yeah, I know a lot of builders who really do like that dynamic though. Which I find quite interesting because I'm a collaborator. Like I feel like you and I are quite similar in that sense. We collaborate because we're, doers, go-getters. We want to learn. We want to meet. We're curious. It's a constant collaboration. And I don't know if you felt this before, maybe years ago when you were maybe a bit more solo in what you were doing, sometimes you can kind of sit there and you just want to bounce. You want to bounce this cool idea that you've just thought of. Yeah. Could be at 4 a.m. You may not bounce it.
Yeah, for sure.
3 or 4 a.m. thoughts that come through, and I'll just write it down on my notepad and save it for the next day. Yeah. But it's exciting.
Yeah, it is.
And I've worked with architects where they're like, awesome, I love that. Let me mock it up. Let me draw that, things like that. And it's like, great. Can't wait to see how that turns out. Yeah. They appreciate that you're making their design much better. And then the builder's excited to build it.
For sure.
It's such a team.
Yeah, and the builder should be excited to build it. I think when I was doing my apprenticeship, the builder would be like, oh, far out. Like, you're making this really difficult for me.
Yeah, those conversations.
Yeah, so, and they still happen now. But for me, I'm like, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
This is the challenge. Let's go.
Yeah,
like, how do we make this happen?
Totally.
Rather than just going, no, can't do it.
Yeah.
How can we actually make this vision happen? Because we're going to be super proud if we get it done.
Totally.
And just finding that fine line between art and what's actually practical.
Totally. And that can be a bit of an interesting conversation when I come in, when the architect and the builder are a little bit butting heads, because the architect,
maybe can soften it up a bit.
The dreamer, they're creating these beautiful structural dwellings, and the builder's like, that wall won't even hold up that roof, The architect's like, but look how beautiful it is. Yeah. So it's not to dim what architects do. They're brilliant in what they do. But I have seen that dynamic happen. And I end up sort of coming in and mediating, that middle ground. Yeah, but I think it's really important to just acknowledge how appreciated, I feel like you might agree with me on this, how appreciated and valued we feel when a client can really see what we do, why we do it.
Yeah.
And to talk money, why it costs what it costs.
Yeah.
I'm putting so much time and effort into this design for you.
Yeah.
And I love when clients can say, yeah, that is worth that value.
Yeah.
Because I value what you do.
For sure.
It's so important.
Yeah.
And if you want the big, beautiful home and if you want all the big, beautiful fittings and finishes, it's valuing what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard for, unless you've built a few times before, it's hard for clients to understand what that value is.
Yeah.
They might see a bill and they go, oh, what, just for picking a couple light fittings?
Yeah.
You know.
Replicate that.
But there's just so much more to it. And going back to that, it being art, every home ends up being a piece of art for me. I don't know about you, but it's like, you know, each project's a little bit different from the other.
Totally.
So I think, unless you've built before, you don't understand the value of that kind of stuff.
So Andrew, Lou Homes, tell me a little bit more about that, this new concept that you guys have started.
Yeah, I saw a problem that with our inquiries, I think we have a lot of people that are interested in building a really nice architectural home that's energy efficient, that's healthy, all the stuff we discussed earlier.
Yeah.
But don't want to head down the route of going through a full custom architectural design. They also don't have the budget for it because a custom home, probably $1 million, you know, once you add everything else in. So I guess I saw an opportunity to pre-design a bunch of homes with one of my favourite architects, Luke Perugia. And it's now on the website, but it's just sort of setting the base price of what a home looks like at the moment. There's 5 different designs. You know, some are 5 bedrooms, some are 3, some have a little studio at the back. Yeah. One of them was like a granny flat. So I guess if you inquire, you'd see, all right, this is the starting price. And then once we investigate the project, we'll understand if there's any retaining walls that needs to be done, additional landscaping, all that kind of stuff. So that way, it's just an easier way for clients to understand what they're getting into from the start.
And how does that differ to your GJ Gardner, your Masterton, Clarendon Homes?
Well, personally, I think they look better.
I do too, yes.
The second thing is the performance.
Yeah.
Like all of them will have, you know, how we do our houses. We wrap our entire house with a vapor permeable wrap. And then we tape all around the windows, all the penetrations. So the whole house becomes airtight and weather tight before all the cladding and roofing goes on. So we get the building envelope right. We get the air tightness good. We get the ventilation through the house, through mechanical ventilation. And we get all the windows all double glazed. So the performance perspective is still there. Yeah. So nothing changes in terms of how we build.
Way more detail driven.
Yeah. 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 There's more thought. There's more architecture. There's
thoughtful design.
Yeah. Yeah. And you'll get our company culture. Yeah. Like you'll get to experience the guys on site who are absolute legends. And that
you sound very proud.
Yeah, they are. I am. They're good guys, and I'm super proud of them. And I've just seen them grow so much in the last few years. So you'll get to experience that rather than those typical project homes work off contractors. So a contracting crew will come and do the slab, another contracting crew will come and do the frame.
It's very cookie cutter.
Yeah, there's no supervision, there's no project management, or there might be project management, but
it's different. Different experience.
Totally different experience.
Yeah.
We'll walk you through each stage.
Yeah.
So here, slab's down. We'll bring the clients on.
Yeah.
This is the slab. This is the feel. They get really excited about it. Frame goes up.
Yeah.
We walk them through that.
Yeah.
So.
And the customization sounds like it could be quite personal too.
Yeah. There's still levels of customization per design.
Yeah.
So we'll have a Japandi style, a coastal Hamptons style, and a country cottage style for now.
Beautiful, yeah.
So there's levels of customization, particularly in the joinery, and finishes, and even obviously internal finishes and external finishes.
Yeah.
So I guess the clients will feel like they have a custom home.
It's personable for them. Yeah.
So the experience is going to be something similar to what it would be like building a custom home with us.
Yeah.
It's definitely not going to be as cheap as a typical.
No.
Because we just can't do that.
No.
But if you want a beautiful home,
a
high-performing home without the headaches, then, that's what we've that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and it sounds quite inspiring. I think that's the biggest thing I've noticed with a lot of my clients. I've worked with clients who have worked with, Telepen Homes up here on the Central Coast. So it's been like a bit of an unfolded GJ Gardiner, unfolded Telepen Homes collaboration.
Yeah.
And the clients love that. But it does come a time where they're very set in their ways, which is natural because they're normally covering the entire project. But the clients got me in because they want that unique approach.
That little customization.
Yeah, that customization. And like, can you help me make it personal? Because right now the walk-in robe is just like really generic.
Yeah.
How can we do some custom joinery in here? And can those finishes be a little bit different to just your standard laminate,
Yeah.
So it sounds like it could be quite an interesting journey. And it'd be like very exciting for you to be doing those types of things, and then for someone like myself to come in and have that conversation with you guys and or your client
for sure
as well, if that was ever necessary. So again, it's that collaborative piece.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's I think it's an exciting thing. It's just a lot of work trying to get it out of the ground.
Yeah.
There's still a heap of work that I need to do on it.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping getting some inquiries around it will kick us in the bum and get the momentum.
Totally.
On one of those designs at least for now. And then
just get started really.
Yeah.
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 And so off the back of, who you guys are, who Lou Projects are, what you do, how you do things, your clientele, are there any sort of tips and tricks that you feel would really benefit your clients if they were listening right now?
I would say get a builder on board as early as possible. And mind you, not every builder has the skill set to be part of a design phase. So maybe
sort of the design team, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we have a process and we've written the process based on our experience. And if you haven't had that experience, it's going to be really difficult to get that out of a builder who's never done it.
Yeah.
So I would say, try and find the right builder that can be part of that collaborative experience. I would, if you're putting on an architect, if you're going to use an architect,
appointing an architect. Yeah.
Find someone that really aligns to the style that you like. And also, if you like sort of passive homes, that kind of stuff, I think try and find an architect that is already doing it. Otherwise, it's going to be really hard for that architect to understand how that's all going to work, and the process is going to drag your project out.
Yeah.
As much as a long time.
Yeah.
And then the other point I would say is be transparent about where you are at, particularly in your finances.
Be clear on it.
Yeah, I understand why people be a little bit conservative with their budget, and that's fine, but don't don't hide the budget because everyone's going to be confused about, and everyone's going to be wasting time on your project.
Be clear about where you are, even if there's a buffer.
Yeah, exactly. So just be completely honest about your budget
from day one.
And everyone is sort of understanding of what that looks like, and we can all build to that budget from there on.
That's so important, isn't it? Because there's so many conversations that go on again behind the design that the clients aren't aware of. You know, you and I might work together on a project and you would say, we can't go with that slab, for example, because it'll just go over budget.
Yep.
And we're having 10 of those conversations a week. And then we find out that there's an extra $500K that can be spent on the job, and you're thinking, well, now we're going to revisit 6 areas of the home because we've got more money to spend. It's kind of, as you say, it drags everything out. It's more time.
I think clients think if they're super conservative about their budget, it'll get to their realistic budget. But then we're just trying to cut corners.
Well, just tell us what the buffer is. Because we may not dive into it. Or dip into it, I should say. But if we know that we can, and I talk to my clients about this, and I say, we like to make sure that if there are investment areas of the home for the client, to let us know what those investment areas are. For example, a client who entertains quite a bit probably will really want a beautiful living dining kitchen and al fresco.
For sure.
And a huge walk-in pantry.
What are the non-negotiables?
All the non-negotiables. So if they're your investment areas, we may go really simple on the joinery of the storage cupboards. Because we want to spend money on your beautiful island bench with 6 bar stools. You know?
Or we won't spend all the crazy money on the bedrooms.
That's it.
Because that's not, it's not absolutely essential to you.
And you're not in that space as much as you are downstairs, for example.
And just being efficient in the design. Like we sort of, so you see so many houses get built and they're just enormous. But why?
Oh, the layouts. Don't even, that's another podcast. You and I.
It's another hour.
Floor plans another day. Oh gosh, I love them. I love them. So it's been so good having you on.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
My first podcast.
Your first podcast. Aw, that's cool. Yeah, it's been really good.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
So 2 final questions. Where can people find you?
Mostly, obviously our website, louprojects.com.au, and then Instagram, lou.projects. If you want to reach out, click this little slide into my DMs. It'll be me. It won't be anyone else.
Okay.
So
it's good to know.
It's not like an accounts manager. It's definitely me.
So I like to end with a bit of a funny question. What is your silliest fear that you have?
Silliest fear, and this definitely sounds silly, but I hate touching tights. It gives me like shivers up my spine. Even like when Inika like rubs her like her activewear, and she's going like this.
Tights. Okay, not stockings.
Nah, sorry,
Tights.
I mean activewear. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I can feel it in my body.
Like a shiver.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, it almost makes
So
me
you
feel
obviously
sick.
don't wear those tights when you go running?
Definitely not. Oh, when I'm riding, I do actually, but I don't know, it's a different fabric.
It's different. What's lycra versus tights?
Yeah.
So you don't mind lycra?
Yeah, I don't enjoy wearing lycra. I have to when I'm on that bike. I enjoy looking at myself in the mirror, that's sure. My friend was like, "Oh, let's go to the coffee shop." I was like, "I'm not walking in a coffee shop like this."
With the bike boot?
Yeah.
Tap, tap, tap.
It's like, no way. So, yeah, that's I don't like that.
Bit of a fear.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Apparently it could be linked to I don't like seeing little holes, like pores.
Oh, like an open weave.
Yeah. When I see a photo of it or when I see it in real life, it's like little holes really close together. Oh. It's a
just gives you.
Inika would know what it's called, but
okay.
it's a thing.
It's a thing. It's a fabric. kind of.
Yeah, it's not just fabric. It's like little holes really close together. I don't like seeing it. So I think maybe, I have no idea, but it's gross. I like the look of activewear though. I just don't like touching it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, okay.
Yeah. There you go.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
This has been fun.
Yeah, me too. I've had a lot of fun.